Hey everybody, thanks for checking out this video from the Rogue Patriot. So today I'm talking about what everybody's been talking about for about the past 24 hours, which is Ruth Bader Ginsburg's passing. Now, I'm talking about this because I think it is extremely important, obviously, as it relates to the upcoming presidential election. And not so much to talk about her as a person or her accomplishments or anything like that. There's a lot more people out there that know about that better than I do. So the reason that this is pretty earth-shattering, if you're not aware, and I'm sure you are if you found my videos, you're at least politically aware in general. But the Supreme Court has a large role in determining election fairness and also what happens when there are events, when there are bad outcomes in elections, when people do things they shouldn't, and other issues and disputes, the Supreme Court is often responsible for deciding them. So, in a move to make 2020 as crazy as possible, now, because Ruth Bader Ginsburg has passed, the court has a even number of people. Therefore, they couldn't decide a case. Now, the last time that this happened, the most recent time where let me just not jump the gun here. Both of the presidential candidates have said that they're not going to accept the results of the election, whatever those results are. So I don't think that's ever happened before in American history. I could be wrong. Somebody might be able to school me on that, but I don't think it's happened where both candidates have said, I just might not accept the results. And they didn't say, I might not accept the results pending a Supreme Court decision. They just said, I might not accept the results. And I don't know if Biden has said that specifically, but people on his side have, and certainly people on the left have. So what that means is that it was going to be very likely that the Supreme Court would be responsible for deciding who's the president. Because let's say there's some issue that the Biden campaign has with the way that voting was administered in South Dakota or in Minnesota or Maine or something like that, then that issue would probably wind up in Supreme Court. It would definitely go to the federal courts first, but ultimately it would probably wind up in the Supreme Court. This is really scary. In another attempt at the year 2020 to throw us all off our marks completely. The only thing that would be crazier than this, I think, would be just one of the candidates just dying, which is probably not that crazy of an outcome because they're both so damn old. But anyway, so the last time that there was a contested election, or at least that the Supreme Court decided who the president was in the year 2000. It was George W. Bush versus Al Gore, hot off the heels of the Clinton presidency. And what happened there was a dispute with the voting process in Florida. And it might have only been a few counties in Florida. I'm not exactly sure. But basically what happened was there was a recount going on in Florida, and the Supreme Court stopped it and said they had to use the original number. It is about how it breaks down. I'll read a little bit about that verbatim, which I don't typically like doing. I'm going to post a few links in the description here, and there's probably some stuff going on either side of me because this is important to know. But I will read a little bit verbatim. So this is regarding in 2000. So what happened in 2000 was the court ruled in favor of Florida not recounting, which handed the election to George W. Bush. The race at that time, he won with 271 electoral votes versus Gore's 266. Super tight race. I don't know if it's the tightest ever, but it's the tightest in the last several for sure. So this is about that ruling. The court ruled that the use of standards and counting in different counties violated the Equal Protection Clause, that's of the 14th Amendment, and ruled that no alternative method could be established within the time frame set by Title III of the United States Code, which has to do with the appointment of electors in the Electoral College. So the vote regarding that was 7-2. This is at the Supreme Court. And there were, 3 justices that asserted that the Florida Supreme Court had violated a separate article of the Constitution by misinterpreting Florida election law that had been enacted by the Florida legislature. So, just from those 3 sentences, you can see how nitty gritty this stuff gets. It's very, very detailed, and you need really significant legal minds working on it to determine some of these issues, to settle some of these issues that can come up. So, unfortunately, now the people making those decisions would be the next rung below the Supreme Court in the federal judicial system, because the Supreme Court can't decide a case if they have an even number, because it could deadlock for people voting for something, for people voting against something. So now the vetting process for federal judges is different somewhat than the vetting process for Supreme Court justices. And even if that difference they're both confirmed by the Senate, but that difference, the way that the nominees are nominated is a little bit different, but also just the overall level of scrutiny is very different. I mean, you saw that the Supreme Court justice before last, Brett Kavanaugh, I mean, he was the last one actually, and Neil Gorsuch was the first one. Actually, I think that is how it went. Kavanaugh was the last one. That battle was insane. It was insanely contentious. There was so much political stone throwing, and I mean, it was a long knockdown, drag out fight to get him nominated. Other federal judges don't have to go through that in the same way. So now, instead of the people that will likely be deciding the election, instead of them being at the Supreme Court, they will just be judges on the federal bench. Another interesting thing about that is nominating and appointing federal judges has been Mitch McConnell's number one priority his entire time as Senate Majority Leader, both under Barack Obama and under Donald Trump. He doesn't really give a shit about passing legislation for anything else, for any reason else. He doesn't care. And that's why he's been called the Grim Reaper of the Senate 100 million times. And also Moscow Mitch, because he just refused to enact any kind of voter suppression for a really long time, or any legislation against voter misinformation coming from malevolent foreign countries. And he just sat around for way too long on that. So his number one priority this whole time has been nominating federal judges, because he feels that the way that you actually change the ideological needle in American politics is through the court system, not through the legislature, which is true. And that's becoming increasingly true the more deadlocked Congress is, ironically deadlocked because of Mitch McConnell's bullshit. So it's funny how it works out that way. It's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. So now the federal judge bench is stacked tremendously with more conservatives than liberals, or at least more judges are not supposed to be overtly partisan. But if the Republican Party is nominating a judge, you can assume that they're not somebody like Ruth Bader Ginsburg or somebody like Merrick Garland, or, there's a million other people. So now we have a federal bench that has a significant number of judges that have been appointed and confirmed by Republicans, and the overall percentage skews way, way more right than it does left right now, which means if it comes down to determining anything about this election, they might just push that needle a little bit closer their way, be a little bit less impartial. Now, a lot of them would be up in arms, assuming that that there's any way that you could corrupt their unbelievable integrity and their values and attribute it to something as dirty as politics. But if you believe that, then you haven't been paying attention to politics very long. That's for sure. Because any politics can and will corrupt absolutely anything it comes near. So, unfortunately, the Supreme Court would have had a really large role in this election, probably would have determined the outcome of it. By the way, in the year 2000, the outcome of the presidency was not determined until, I believe, December 12th of 2000, because this issue was held up in the courts. It was not clear. The election was not called November 3rd or November 4th. It was called December 12th. And guess what? Nobody was screaming about a constitutional crisis because it took that long to figure out. Watch and see what happens this year, because I'll bet $1 million right now that there will be candidates saying that if the race isn't called like the day of the election or the week of the election, then, oh, it's all rigged and we just have to go with whatever the count was on November 3rd. Nope, not how the Constitution works. Every vote has to be counted. Every vote has to be counted. Every electoral vote has to be assigned the correct way, and the states have to administer the popular vote correctly and in a non-corrupt manner, or at least as little corrupt as we can get away with at the state. By the way, speaking of the 2000 election, who would have ever guessed that now the assault on the post office system and on mail-in and absentee voting has actually made the shitty piece of garbage Diebold electric voting machines that came around in the year 2000 look more secure than paper. I would have never guessed in a million years that those damn machines would be more responsible for guarding democracy than paper. But it looks like that's where we're at with it right now. And if you're not sure where I'm talking about, Diebold is the company that originally made electronic voting machines. Go check out some of the scandalous shit in their past regarding how that came about in the year 2000 and 2004 in particular. By the way, a lot of districts, still the same machines. They're 20 years old. So if you think that's uncorruptible as well, then I got a bridge or two to sell you. So I think that was pretty much all I had for this video. It's going to be rough. I mean, this is really, America is being tested this year, unlike I think anybody could have predicted ever. There have been a lot of different, not cataclysmic events, but very, very trying events as a result of this, as a result of all the events this year. And it's really a shame that now we've got this thrown on top of it, which is just going to put fuel on the fire of another impending doom event on November 3rd. One other thing I wanted to point out before I leave you today is that in 2016, Antonin Scalia, who was a Supreme Court judge who died in, I'm pretty sure it was 2016, might have been 2015. I think it was 2016. So let me set the stage for you. And it won't be immediately clear why I'm doing this, but I'll get to it. So in 2016, Barack Obama was the president. The Senate was led by Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, and the House was controlled by Republicans. So there was a Supreme Court judge who died named Antonin Scalia. And because of that, when a Supreme Court justice dies, as we all know, the president gets to nominate somebody. If that person makes it through the Senate confirmation hearings, they become Supreme Court justice. Mitch McConnell refused to allow confirmation hearings to proceed as Senate Majority Leader. For some reason, he has that ability because he can control largely what happens on the Senate floor, what legislation, anything that goes on in the Senate. Because he said that it was without precedent that a president would nominate and get confirmed a Supreme Court pick with an opposition government in an election year. Now, that is some pretty dubious logic, because who's to say that that ever happened? And I think that he came up with like maybe two examples or one example in the country's history where there was a president of one party and Congress of another party, and the president nominated somebody and Congress said, no, we're not doing it. And he decided that, oh, okay, well, that's what we're doing. So that was some shitbag logic for sure. And I think pretty much everybody knew what it was. Although at the time, as what happens in politics, everybody with a red tie was saying, oh, well, actually, I mean, everybody knows that a president with an opposition government can't appoint a new Supreme Court justice. They won't be able to be confirmed, blah, 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 whatever. But now a lot of the Democrats are saying, well, watch Trump nominate a new justice when, 4 years ago they were saying, oh, no, you can't do that. You can't nominate a justice in an election year. And I'm not saying they're wrong. And at great hesitation, I'm actually going to defend this a little bit, because at the time, Mitch McConnell used such a freaking needle in a haystack explanation for not allowing the Senate confirmation hearings to go on, that it actually truthfully does not apply now, because the Republicans hold the presidency and the Senate, the Democrats hold the House. So it's not an opposition government. Trump does not have an opposition government. It's only the House that's Democrats. So by McConnell's logic in 2016, which I hesitate again to use the word logic with that man, it's still okay to do because it's not an opposition government. Now, realistically, could they get a nominee nominated and through Senate confirmation hearings before the election? I don't think so. Now, could they do that before January 20 whatever, when the inauguration day is, assuming Trump loses? Yeah, they could do it between now and January for sure. Unless the Democrats in the Senate have some magical way to prevent that from happening, then yeah, they could put something on here. Now, here's the people that are just all in favor of this, of Trump being able to do this, and the Republicans get to pick another Supreme Court justice. I'll posit this to you. In general, take the current president out of the situation. Take the current Congress out. What sense does it make to have one president be able to appoint 3 people to the Supreme Court with lifetime appointments? 3 out of 9 have been appointed just by President Trump, assuming he gets one. He already has 2 out of 9. I think 3 out of 9 is a record for the country. Could be wrong on that, but I think it is. How is it that, number one, this hasn't happened before, but number two, how is it a good idea, or, I mean, it is constitutional generally, but how is it a good idea to give one man the ability to give 3 fairly young people, or now 2 fairly young people, maybe 3, lifetime appointments of the most important institution, arguably, in the country? The Supreme Court is the only institution that can turn down Congress and the president. Nobody else can do that. So it's an incredibly important institution. And the fact that one person can nominate now maybe 3 executives to run it, shit, that does not seem like a good idea. I don't care who the president is, because I like divided governments. I think divided governments make better legislation when they can, put their dicks away and talk to each other and actually do something, instead of the Mitch McConnell way, which is do nothing. That doesn't seem like a good idea to me for anybody to be able to nominate that many. That means that the smell of Trump's reign will continue conceivably for another 30 years, assuming that Kavanaugh or Neil Gorsuch are currently in their 50s, which I think they are. That could go on for another 30 years. Ruth Bader Ginsburg was well into her 80s. And I don't remember who she was appointed by, but it was a long time ago. She'd been on the court for a while. This is scary. I might have said that already, but it's scary. And I don't really have anything reassuring to say. Not that you'd come to me for that anyway, me of all people. But I will post some articles along with this. If you're watching, thank you very much. I appreciate the viewership very well. I've seen some arguments going on in the comments. I like that a lot. as I say all the time, the country was founded on disagreement. So please follow me on YouTube where you're watching this, I assume, and click the notification bell, or rather subscribe. I'm sorry, I get my language confused. So subscribe on YouTube and click the notification bell so you get alerts when I post a new video. I would greatly appreciate that. Also, this show and all the other shows are posted on the Rogue Patriot podcast, which is available anywhere podcasts are available. Also available on theroguepatriot.com. I appreciate your viewing or listening very much. It makes me really happy. So I've got a lot more stuff coming for you, and stay in there. Thank you. Oh, also contact me at theroguepatriotpodcast@gmail.com with topics, questions, whatever else you want. Keep arguing in the comments. I like seeing it. You can put other issues and other stuff down there as well. Thank you for watching.